All right, welcome to the F1 project. In this lesson, we're going to be modeling the rear wing and the front wing and adding a wing support on the body. We'll also add a small wing support at the rear wing. We're going to split the body and to support the nose cone and then edit the wing shapes. So this is the car body we've been working on. We want to add a rear wing and a front wing. I'm going to do this by turning on the visibility of the work plane that we've created earlier and create a sketch on that plane. I'm going to be placing a freeform body in this area, so I need the work plane and a point which will be the center of that freeform body. I place the point and will place a vertical constraint to the center to center it on the bottom edge. I'm now going to add a dimension. That dimension will be from the point on the bottom edge, and it's going to be a dimension of 51. I can now finish the sketch, and I'm going to go and add the body. That's a box. Select the plane and the work point as the center of that box. Previously, we created a plane which had two inputs. Obviously, this one has three. A length of 18. The width is going to be 3.5. And then the height. The height is going to be, in this case, 60. We're going to increase the number of faces just on that one. It's easier to modify, and we'll notice that we need to have the direction in both directions. I also want to add height symmetry. You'll see that the line that we added at the box right there. Everything looks good, so I can click OK. And I'm going to finish the freeform back out to the home view. So what's happened here is we now have two solid bodies. Solid 1 was the original car body we started with, and now the wing has been added. This is going to be very useful as we combine or subtract the parts from each other. I'm going to turn off the sketch that we used to create the rear wing. Let's look at the left view, and we'll create another box which will become the front wing. Same procedure here. I need to select an area. In this case, the work plane about level with the axle hole will be good, and somewhere in the middle. So let's go to the home view so we can see it a little better and fill in the values. For a length, we're going to go with 24. The width will be 3. And for a height, we're going to use 65. Again, increase the number of faces in both directions and add a height symmetry. And check that it looks okay. And I think we're good here. So we created both wings now. Now the wing is flat, so what I want to do is actually change this a little bit, make it a bit of an incline. And I'm going to double click on that. That selects the whole wing. I can now edit the form, and I'm going to rotate that. So I'll select the manipulator, and I can now rotate it down. Drag it down just a little bit more, and let's rotate it 30 degrees. We can always come back and change those values if they're not working. So we finish the freeform and turn off the visibility of the plane. We have two wings created. But if we look a little more closely, the rear wing is just there, kind of hanging in space. So we need to create a support for this. So to start creating a support for the rear wing, we're going to be creating two things. Two small extrusions, and then we're going to be using the combine tool to add and subtract those parts from the car body and the wing. So we'll start by creating a work plane. We need this work plane to create a sketch, so I'm going to use that plane. If you don't know which one, just cycle through them, and as I'm doing, and then click on the top of the surface that's rounded. This gives you the work plane tangent to that rounded surface. create the sketch, and then zoom or pan into the area that we want to work in. I'm going to turn off the visibility of that plane, and they'll create the rectangle, actually a square that's 8 millimeters by 8 millimeters. And hit enter. And OK. Now it's not centered or dimensioned, so we need to come in here and center that using a horizontal constraint and a vertical constraint. Might seem the other way around, but that's because of the way the coordinate system is set up, and that's why I rotated it apart. So what seemed vertical was not. In this case, I want to create asymmetry. So asymmetric allows us to put two different values in an extrusion. The first value, which is upwards, is going to be 5. And the second value, which is downwards, as shown here by the arrow, is going to be 3. I want this to be a new solid. With all those things in place, we click OK. So that's the first of the supports. Now I need to do is add another support and also create a hole in the rear wing. Let's focus on the rear wing and what needs to be done in that area. So I'm going to turn on the visibility of form 2. In my case, it's number 2, which is the rear wing. I'm going to combine the rear wing and that little extrusion we just created, so the wing will be there on the base, and the small part, the extrusion, will be in the body. It's difficult to see, so you can actually select these in the browser, and that's very often what I do. So it happens to be solid 4 in my case. I want to keep the tool body, and I want to subtract or cut it from the rear wing. Hit OK, and you see the end result of all that. So what happens is the second one, the tool body, the visibility is temporarily turned off, and you see that work. That's the small rectangular cutout in the wing. Turn the visibility back on. Now you can see that the extrusion is still there. What I want to do is hide all the others. I want to work on that little extrusion. I'm going to affect a little collar around it, which will actually be tied on the rear wing. So I'm using the extrusion to help me build that. Create a work plane, drag it down -1.5, and that work plane, that's going to be the basis for the sketch I'll create. Just press F5 key, runs the remote to the whole car, and on that tiny little piece, by pressing the F5, it brings it back immediately. Project the geometry from the top of the square, and then using the offset 1 millimeter, quite a handy tool, E on the keyboard to extrude, defaults upwards, and I want to drag it downwards. I want it to be below, and it's going to be a distance of 1.5 millimeters. Also a new solid. I don't need that work plane anymore, so I can turn off the visibility. The next thing we want to do is look at what we want to combine. I'm going to turn on solid 2, which is the rear wing, and I'm going to combine that new collar and the little extrusion I just created. I want to join the wing so that I want to combine the wing and the second extrusion I created. The wing is going to be the base, and I can go back and forth between the browser and the graphics window to select that. Can't see the other one very well, but I know it's solid 5. Do I want to keep the tool body in this case? No, I want to join them together, so just click OK. So now the second extrusion is joined to the wing, and let me show you to turn off that first extrusion, and you can go see just by itself now. So all that our design's coming together quite nicely. So let's review what we did here. Did quite a few things in terms of combining. So what we did was we created a small extrusion with a collar. The small collar is now combined with the wing and the second extrusion. That first extrusion has created a hole in the rear wing, and there's a bit of a problem here. When we go to machine the car, we need an edge for a fillet or a fillet. A 3 millimeter fillet We don't have one, so what I'm going to do is combine the car body and the extrusion. I'm not going to keep the tool body. I want them joined together. Now you can see there's an edge to fillet or fillet. In this case, 3 millimeters. I'm going to add the fillets later. You'll always want to think ahead when you're designing and save the work. So the next step in the lesson is to create the nose cone. I'm going to get a work plane. I'm going to offset that work plane from the nose negative 35 millimeters. Now you want to check that wing you created. That front wing doesn't interfere. Make sure it doesn't interfere with the work plane. If it does, right click, edit freeform, double click the wing if it affects it, and you can edit it. This view I'm going to see a little more clear. You can just drag it forward, so just do a little double check and see that I don't need to do anything. It's fine. But if you do run into any conflict between that work plane and the wing, that's how you solve that. I'm going to split the solid. The split will be the work plane, and the solid, or the body, is the car body. Click OK. In the browser, you'll see there's a split that's been added. That's the larger part of the car body, and that's the nose cone. Let's turn off the visibility of a couple things as the front nose cone and the wing. The nose cone and the body needs to be connected together somehow. I'm going to create a small rectangular extrusion to do that. On the work plane, I created a sketch in a rectangle. And this rectangle is going to be 10 millimeters by 4 millimeters. Tab another 4. We've done this a few times. Press enter, right click, OK. I need to locate that rectangle. I'm going to start with the dimension. I would like to think probably 13 millimeters would be good. I need to center it, so I'm going to use a vertical constraint between the bottom edge and that guide slot. Here. So it's now centered on the body car. Extrude that, and we'll make it 10 millimeters. So now we have the first part on the major part of the car body. And I need a slot on the nose cone. So how are we going to do that? We're going to use that combine technique again. So in this case, I'm going to turn on the visibility of the nose cone. Go to combine. I need to select the base. So the base in this particular case will be the nose cone, which will be the solid. And I'm using a browser for the selection again of the graphics window could be used. And I want to keep the tool body and cut and click OK. Again, the tool body is invisible. We'll turn the visibility back on in a moment, but while it's invisible, let's have a look at what happened. What we hope for is now that there's a little notch where the original extrusion was created. Show all, and our design is moving along. Save our file. We're not going to change the front and rear wing. We're going to edit those. So select Edit Freeform. Just click on that face. Edit Form. I'm holding down the Alt key because I want to add material, and it's pulling that out. Because of the symmetry, you can see it's happening on the other side as well. So -3 in this case. Don't need to click OK. I can keep going here. So double click on the edge, pull that forward, and you're going to change that by 4 millimeters. Click OK, finish the freeform, and let's go over and take a look at the rear wing. Same workflow here, just click on the rear wing, edit other changes that I want to make in this particular case. Require me to add some more symmetry. So click on symmetry, select something on the top face. That one. Let's select the equivalent on the bottom. And as soon as I do that, you can see the second line of symmetry has been added. And click OK. I also want to subdivide some of the faces, which gives us a little more control over the changes or modifications we're going to make. So you can see the top and bottom because of the lines of symmetry. And I'll do that with the leading edge as well. So you see those subdivided faces. So taking advantage of that, I'm going to double click on the edges that was created, which selects the whole edge, and the one on the other side because of the symmetry. Edit the form, and you can see the effect that that has now. So inner distance of 5 millimeters. I don't want to make the edges of the wing a bit thinner, so I select the two faces holding down the shift key for the second face and bring it downwards. So my input is going to be -8 and click OK. Let's go to the finish freeform. We have created quite a lot. You'll see the changes we've made added to the wings and some of the support design. So just moving along, make sure to save your file. Don't forget to save. Very important. So in this lesson, we've modeled the rear wing, we've modeled the front wing, added a wing support, the body on the rear wing, and we used the combine tool quite a bit to do that. Then we split the body to support the nose cone, and we concluded by editing the wing shapes. Don't forget, you can go back and look at any other part of this video to replay or relearn. Have fun.